Being in North Carolina, we have a little bit of an embarrassment of riches in terms of people who have really put in a lot of effort to advance conservative values and good public policy in North Carolina. In North Carolina, the big story nationally are all the tax cuts that we've passed. And the first big wave of tax cuts that we passed in 2013 made national news. People still talk about it. What people don't really realize is that there have been 3 other rounds of tax cuts in 2015, 2016, and 2017 that came right after that, which is even more remarkable than just one large tax cut, right? And I think that our next speaker doesn't get enough credit for the fact that he has been Speaker of the House for those last 3 rounds of tax cuts. First elected to the General Assembly in 2002, House Speaker Tim Moore is currently serving his 2nd term as the presiding officer of the North Carolina House of Representatives. He represents Cleveland County over in the Kings Mountain area part of the state, if you're familiar with your North Carolina history. It's an honor for him to be here with us today. After attending the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill to complete his bachelor's degree and then Oklahoma City University School of Law, Speaker Moore became a partner of the firm Flowers, Martin, Moore, and Ditz and practiced there until 2009 when he opened his own firm, Tim Moore Attorney at Law. We need to work on your creativity, Speaker Moore, but Tim Moore Attorney at Law it is. That's fine. We're in Kings Mountain where he currently practices. As part of his legal practice, Speaker Moore serves as the county attorney for Cleveland County, North Carolina, as well as the general counsel for Cleveland County Water Board of Commissioners. We are thankful to have Speaker Moore with us today and to give us his insight on different issues in North Carolina and what it is to be a leader in the North Carolina House of Representatives. Thank you, and join me in welcoming Speaker Tim Moore.
Well, good morning. We're going to have to shorten that bio sometime, Donald. I got to get that thing reduced. Well, it's good to be here, first of all, and I really want to thank Civitas for inviting me to speak this morning. A lot of friends here today, and I know you had a great dinner last night, and you've got an excellent agenda lined up for today. And it's really, I'm glad to see this happening. And I'm glad to see that so many of you are taking your time out on what's really actually a pretty nice day outside on a Saturday to hear about these issues. But you're doing it because you care about the state and you want to see us continue the good work that we've done. And I also want a special recognition for Chief Justice Martin, Justice Jackson. You know, the governor keeps suing us. I don't know if you guys are supposed to call me the speaker or the defendant. I don't know these days anymore. But good to see you all, and I thank you for the work that you do. Also, I know I've seen a number of members of our Board of Governors for the university system who've been working very hard to bring about change in higher education. So it's also an honor to see those ladies and gentlemen here as well. You know, our cause has had a great deal of success over this last decade. Our state is pressing forward into a new era. We're now a top-tier state when it comes to lower taxes and wage growth. This week alone, we announced 700 new jobs across the state, some of those in some rural and some of the hardest impacted areas of the state that have been slow to recover from the recession. You know, but with these positive results come even greater responsibilities to make sure that we are protecting our progress we've made. We still have a long way to go. Our purpose requires constant determination. I want to talk about the future of North Carolina and the nation this morning. Some call me crazy, but I actually believe there's hope for Washington, D.C. We have a great president. We have great majorities in the House and in the Senate. But I'm going to tell you something. All of those folks in D.C. can really learn if they'll watch what we've been doing and what we are doing now here in North Carolina. There's a reason to look, for example, at tax reform in North Carolina. Congress could emulate what we've done. They can look to us because we've cut taxes, we've controlled spending, and at the same time, we've put the money into where the priorities should be spent, into education, infrastructure development, economic development, rural prosperity. You know, the naysayers who have fought and insisted that tax reform doesn't work, I would say have been proven wrong over these last few years this has happened. We didn't always listen to what the naysayers, matter of fact, we never listened to what the naysayers said. Let me just put it that way. We pressed on. You know, if you look at the debates that were happening, a number of you are very familiar with the halls of the General Assembly. When we were talking about the tax cuts we wanted to make, if you'd listen to the left, we'd all be right now filing bankruptcy. Everybody remember hearing that? We'd have nobody working. We'd have to lay off all the teachers, close all the stores, shut down all the roads. Well, in fact, the opposite's happened. Our state's now the strongest it's been in decades. Taxes are the lowest they've ever been. And regulations have been cut now back to where they were maybe 30, 40 years ago in terms of the duplication that was there. Our nations can continue to look, our nation's leaders can continue to look at North Carolina and see the progress we've made, how we now are spending billions of dollars more wisely today than we did in the past. One need only look back to 2008 when our state was facing highest unemployment in decades, when the talk of the government was teacher furloughs. And by the way, I was here, but I was in the minority, sitting way back in the back of the room. I'd have to strain to see what was going on up front. And many of us realized we had a better way of doing things. And I can tell you that many of the folks sitting in this room today were a key part of making sure that in 2010 we went a different direction. So. When it comes to tax reform, it's not an easy process. The folks in Washington, if they're going to really get serious and follow, they've done great steps. But to really do what North Carolina's done and follow the path that we've made, it's going to take even stronger moves. It's going to take action as opposed to inaction. It's going to take the ability to, get past the chatter, convince folks and show folks how it works. We have to essentially reject the big government notions of bygone generations. A conservative revolution is not a one-time thing. Donald mentioned this. This isn't a one-time process where you just dramatically make a cut. It's a process over time. Dale Fall, who, by the way, is doing an amazing job as our state treasurer, was a big part of that as well. Dale, thank you. The other process you may have noticed about the way we did tax reform in North Carolina was that we didn't try to divide our state. We didn't try to pitch this thing of the haves and the have-nots. If you look at the left, you see that all the time, right? We see that where anything that benefits prosperity is somehow harming someone else, that in order to give for the greater good that you somehow have to take from someone. That's a false narrative the left always likes to use. And we didn't fall into that trap. We didn't go down that road. What are some examples of that? Well, how many of you, I'm just curious, how many of you, when you've picked up the paper, watched the news, gone online, have heard arguments that tax cuts only help the rich? Anybody ever heard such a thing? I've heard it. We've all heard that. Well, look at what we've done. We have what's called the standard deduction. Anybody familiar with what the standard deduction is? All right. Now, this is an interactive thing. You got to raise your hand, okay? All right? Because if I don't get answers, I'm going to put Professor Falwell up here to give a detailed explanation of the tax code. All right. So now, so the standard deduction, not everybody raised their hand, and that's okay. Well, let me tell you what the standard deduction is. The standard deduction is basically the zero bracket. That's the first amount of income that every person earns that they don't pay tax on, okay? Back in 2008, that amount was $6,000. That means the first $6,000 you didn't pay tax on. Today, right now, that number, anybody got to guess what it is? There you go, $17,500. Who is that going to help the most? Those earning the least. It's going to help those folks. And we've also cut the rate. And what are we seeing? We're seeing families have more money in their pockets to spend. What happens when that happens? You have more companies coming to town. You have jobs created. You have growth. And those are the things that we're seeing. So a lot of folks didn't believe that that would happen, but it has. Is that just what Tim Moore says? No. Forbes magazine has ranked North Carolina as the #1 state in the country for business this year. That is not an accident, my friends. That is due to a lot of hard work by a lot of folks. One of the things as we've made changes over the years, we did not turn North Carolina around by putting our hope in government. We proved that there is hope for government, from individuals, from private investment. We've shown that our state can serve its citizens and not just serve its institutions. We believe that we know that there is hope for our state, and if the feds follow what we've done, that our nation will continue to prosper as well. We've kept our promise over these years to lower taxes, to cut regulations, but to do so responsibly, and I'm proud to see where we are today. A couple of points about a number of folks in here who've been very active. This election cycle is, you've all been watching the news, you've all been reading the papers, and been seeing what's out there. there are those who believe that, that we're going down the wrong path. And I don't see how that's, if you look around and see the great things that are happening, I don't know how one could come up with that. If you look at our schools, for example, we talk about education. Today in North Carolina, teachers are getting paid more than at any time before. Starting teacher salaries are $35,000. Average teacher salaries are now $50,000. If you look at where we're investing money in higher education, we're doing that. But what we've asked for when we've spent money, one of the key things that we've done is we've tried to think with business principles. Where do we need to put it? Do we have measurable outcomes to show that we're actually getting a bang for the buck for the taxpayers? Those are things that are out there as well. When you go home and return to your communities, these are things that you can talk about to folks. Every one of us here are here because we love this state. We want this state to be great for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren, and generations yet to come. But it requires constant work. It requires efforts to make sure that we educate folks where we are, that we engage folks in the appropriate manner, and that we continue to fight for making this state great. It's an honor to be with you today. I'm really excited for the agenda you have. I'm just curious, where's the Cleveland County contingent? Okay, I see Guy right there. Guy's a really shy guy. I don't know if you ever know him there. He's real subtle. You won't see him at all. He sort of blends in. Guy, good to see you. I'm going to give him a quick shout out. Guy Smith is an absolute warrior for the conservative cause, and I am proud to call him a friend and a neighbor from Cleveland County. So, Guy, thank you for being here as well. So, with that, it's good to see you all. Wish you a great day, and God bless.